You step onto a suspension bridge. The wind roars around you. The thin wooden path between us and the rocks below. You look down into the gorge, and suddenly your legs begin to shake. What are we really afraid of? The height? The fall? The thin wooden path between us and the rocks below? Or is it something stranger? The terrifying realization that our body can scream danger before our mind can explain it. Your inner ear tells you the world is sliding sideways. Your pulse spikes, your palms sweating. A primal evolutionary panic drops like an anvil in your chest. But then you look to your side. Someone is standing there with you. She is shaking too, her eyes wide, reaching blindly into space until her hands find you. And in that exact microsecond of shared vertigo, the fear changed shapes. It is overwritten by an intense sudden heat. You are falling for her. We like to believe we are the absolute authors of our own internal lives. But psychology reveals a much colder truth. Your brain is a blind narrator. It doesn't actually read your emotions, it guesses them. This is a concept known in cognitive science as interoception. When your chest tightens and your palms grow sleek, the brain doesn't instantly know why. Instead, it rapidly scans your immediate surroundings to invent a story. If you are standing in front of a predator, the brain labels that physical rush as fear. If you are on a stage, it labels it as a stage fright. But what happens when the environment provides two completely different stimuli at the exact same time? We have to travel back to 1974 to the damp, overcast wilderness of British Columbia, Canada. Donald Dutton and author Aron selected their testing ground, the Capilano Suspension Bridge. In 1974, the Capilano Suspension Bridge was a notorious unstable wire contraption dangling 230 feet above a roaring icy river. As you walk across, the entire structure would tilt, bounce, and sway with every step. The researchers set up a control, a second suspension bridge, low, solid, and safe. Then came the bed, an attractive female assistant in the middle of both suspension bridges. She intercepted unaccompanied men and asked them to fill out a psychological survey. At the end, she offered them her phone number. To the unsuspecting subjects, this was a random encounter. To the scientists, it was a precise calculation of human error. The survey was a projection test, a picture of a woman hiding her face. The men on the safe low suspension bridge wrote mundane uninspired stories. Almost none of them ever called. But the man stranded in the middle of the terrifying high wire wrote differently. Their stories were packed with intense, highly charged romantic and sexual imagery. When they got home, they flooded the assistant's phone line. The mechanics beneath the skull were entirely subconscious. Their sympathetic nervous systems were in overdrive. Cortisol and adrenaline were flooding their bloodstreams. But when they looked across the planks, they didn't just see a dangerous drop, they saw her. The blind narrator misattributed the arousal. It translated a primal cry for survival into the spark of romantic infatuation. They didn't think, I am terrified of falling. They thought, I am falling for her. Skeptics argue the high suspension bridge men might simply be natural adrenaline seekers. But the researchers introduced a third group, men interviewed 10 minutes later after resting. By then, their heart rates had stabilized, the adrenaline had cleared. The magic vanished. The attraction wasn't personality, it was active, physical panic. This glitch, the misattribution of arousal, governs our modern architecture of romance. It's why we take dates to high-speed roller coasters, or sit next to them in pitch-black theaters watching horror movies. We mimic the physical biology of fear, hoping the brain labels it as love. But it has a darker, more volatile double-edged sword. In chaotic relationships, anxiety and drama mimic the same physical warning signs. The brain misinterprets toxic stress as intense passion. We mistake a trauma bond for a soulmate trapped on a suspension bridge we refuse to step off of. Okay, so now you know where to plan your next date, right? Skip the quiet, predictable coffee shop. Walking over a shaking suspension bridge or strapped into a plummeting roller coaster. Make certain she's falling for who you are. And not just clinging to you so she doesn't drop. When the ground beneath you begins to swing, you realize just how fragile one's independence really is.